Alright, guys, I just finished catching Buried in the Sands: The Deception of America, a 2004 film, which has garnered a reputation as being one of the most extreme you will find on the internet over the last couple of years. It's a film I've tried to find for about 2 years. I finally got around to seeing it, and after catching it earlier today, I have to say that I was very disappointed with what I was presented with. The talk I've heard about the film kind of, vaunted as being something extremely disturbing and brutal and hardcore and something that's hard to forget. And there's definitely some very troubling moments in the film, and a lot of it is very horrific and horrible. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's really anywhere near as extreme or brutal or horrendous as many people claim it to be. It's not to say that it doesn't have some very tough scenes to get through, but I think that overall, it probably doesn't deserve its reputation. My biggest problem with the movie is the fact that it's so extremely polemic. There's definitely a hardcore pro-U.S. military agenda with the film. It's very. It was made in 2004, basically as sort of a rebuttal to Fahrenheit 9/11. So it's definitely anti-Democrat. It has a very strong, hawkish Republican vibe to it, and they kind of go out of their way to kind of push this. U.S. military first. We have to go over there and defend the world sort of agenda, which is something a lot of people believe in, but it's just so heavy-handed and shoved down our throats that it really kind of gets in the way of the rest of the documentary. It's basically this one guy who's just sitting in a TV studio, and it looks really bad. It's a horrible set. There's like a chain link fence they got at Lowe's for like $5, and there's a bunch of like green screen TV monitors in the background, and it's done sort of like in a 2020 pseudo news magazine style. And basically, the film is just sort of collected raw footage from terrorist attacks and some stuff from Iraq. And admittedly, there's some pretty gruesome stuff going on there. You get to see a couple of beheadings. There's some scenes of people getting stoned to death. There's guys getting their hands cut off. There's a really brutal scene early on with a bunch of people that have been tried for slander during Saddam Hussein's regime, and their punishment is they have their tongues sliced off with razor blades. It's definitely not the kind of stuff that you want to see. It's not stuff you can shake away easily. But everything in the film is just the audio quality, and especially the video quality is often very poor, which is kind of a blessing because the stuff you see is just downright heinous. By now, you've probably heard about all of the really bad scenes. I've actually seen most of it, like the Daniel Pearl beheading I saw way back in high school, and it's extremely hard to watch. You have to have an incredibly strong stomach to watch it, and as a collective effort, as a motion picture, I think it's pretty bad. Most of this footage you can probably see elsewhere, and everything is kind of chopped up and edited to kind of give it this political angle. Like there's a lot of quotes from Hillary Clinton and Ted Kennedy that are taken out of context. There's a really bad part where the narrator is talking about how he challenged Ted Kennedy to come onto the set and recant some of his claims. And of course he didn't show up. I mean, you're a dude, filming a video in a basement. Kennedy's not going to show up. I wouldn't show up, and I don't have Ted Kennedy money. They showed some stuff from Abu Ghraib and the kind of cherry pick footage. If you look up there on the internet, there is some really heinous stuff from Abu Ghraib and Guantanamo that never really made the mainstream media rounds, and they kind of compare that to some of the abuses that were going on during the Hussein regime. And I think it's not really sort of a fair assessment by comparing the two. But they keep pushing that angle. And it really does kind of feel outdated now that the Iraq War is over. It'll never really be over because you still have the whole war on terror, and you have the guys come back with PTSD. But for all intents and purposes, it's a political message which is really kind of come and gone, and doesn't really have as much bearing as it used to. So it feels very dated. As an overall film, is it worth going out of your way to see? You're probably going to end up watching it because if you even know what it is and you're curious, it's not a film that's that difficult to find. And we all kind of have those interests to kind of see, just, how extreme is it? Is it really as brutal as everybody says? And while it's bad, I think you're going to walk away disappointed, if not because of the heavy handed political message, just the fact that it's not really new material. And overall, just the video quality, just what you're seeing is just so poor and amateurish. Most of the footage kind of looks like it was recorded on a cell phone. And it's not to say that it's not stuff that is not difficult to watch. It's definitely very brutal and extreme and stuff that's not going to be really all that easy to kind of walk away from. But overall, I just don't think it's that great of a presentation in really any aspect. For me, is Buried in the Sand worth watching? I think it's a mixed bag. I think that if you go in there and you kind of tune out some of the politicking and just try to view it as just a general overview of some of the violence going on in the region, then maybe it's worth your time. But like I said, the heavy-handed politicking is very, very hard to get by. But other than that, it's not really a horrible way to waste an hour. But just rest assured, if you watch it, I think it's kind of hard to not walk away at least mildly disappointed, considering all the internet hoopla. So there you go, Buried in the Sand, my review. It's got some pretty grisly moments, but it's definitely not really worthy of its reputation, in my humble opinion.